Just off the coast of Melbourne lies French Island, home to the most dense population of wild koalas anywhere in the world. We're heading off on a day trip, just a 1-hour train ride and a short ferry to explore its rugged trails and search for koalas in the wild. French Island sits in Western Port Bay, and getting here is pretty straightforward. You can catch a short ferry from either Phillip Island or Stony Point. But since Stony Point is closer to Melbourne and has a direct train line, it's usually the easier option. The return ferry trip cost around 33 Australian dollars, with the option to bring a bike on board for a small additional fee. Bringing a bike is definitely worth it, because what surprised us most was just how large French Island really is, covering over 170 square kilometres. The ferry trip takes about 15 to 20 minutes. Stepping onto French Island, it feels like you've arrived in a completely different world. Most of the area is protected national park and only around 120 people live here. The island's general store is located about 3 kilometres from the arrival pier, and they even offer a free shuttle service. This is the easiest way to get deep into the island. On the screen, you can see we've arrived at the general store. This is the only store on the land. It serves as a restaurant, snack bar and a small convenience store, and they even offer accommodation. After having a light lunch at the store, our next venture was to hike the paths on the lookout for koalas. The number of koalas we saw was incredible. In just about 3 hours, we spotted more than 50 koalas. We decided to hike the Pinnacles Trail, a 12-kilometre loop through French Island National Park, which eventually brings you back to the jetty where we started. It's believed that koalas were introduced on the land as part of a conservation effort in the late 1800s. With vast areas of untouched bushland and an abundance of eucalyptus trees, the area provided the perfect sanctuary. From here, the population grew rapidly, eventually becoming one of the largest and healthiest koala populations in Australia today. The island also hosts a variety of other wildlife, including long-nosed potoroos, echidnas, and over 230 species of birds, making it a paradise for nature lovers. Outside of nature, French Island also has a unique history. In the early 1900s, it was home to the McLeod Prison Farm, a low-security, self-sustaining prison where inmates worked the land. The prison remained in operation for decades before closing in 1975. Even though the area has just one store, there are several bed and breakfast stays that are scattered across the island, as well as multiple campsites. It's a perfect chance to spend a weekend away in peace and quiet. If you do decide to walk the Pinnacles Trail like we did, make sure to carry water. Once you're out there, there's nowhere to get it. Also, during the second half of the trail, the surface becomes extremely sandy, making it almost impossible to ride a bike. So if you're planning to cycle, it's best to take an alternative route. Most of the koalas we saw were along Tankerton Road, just past the general store, and to our surprise, they're usually found lower in the trees, sometimes so still and well camouflaged they blend right into the bark and branches. Towards the back end of the Pinnacles Trail, the terrain starts to change. You begin to see fewer koalas, but the walk is still just as impressive. Eventually you reach the Pinnacles Lookout, the highest point on French Island. The lookout is not too high, sitting just about 94 meters above sea level, however you still get good views of the bay. After completing the 12-kilometer loop, we arrived back at the jetty. Here there are public toilets which were surprisingly very clean. One important thing to note is there are no toilets along the walking trails, so it's best to stop at either the jetty or the general store before setting off. If you enjoyed this video on French Island, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more travel adventures.